crafters, welcome back to another sewing adventure. It's been a minute since we've tackled a vintage or historically inspired pattern around here. I do love vintage style, but I don't tend to wear vintage clothing items on the daily basis just because they can be a little bit difficult to launder, maybe a little fragile, and vintage reproduction clothing can be a little pricey. But, you know, with my crafter's audacity, I do love thinking that, hey, maybe I could figure out how to make this myself. Speaking of figuring things out, though, I have a new pattern in mind, and this is one I've had for a while, but I've been putting off tackling it because I know it's gonna take some work. There are some things I love about this pattern and some things that I want to change, and it's gonna take some time. I'm a learner sewer, so this is gonna be a learning process, but I'm excited to try it because I feel like if I can learn how to make this pattern, I could make a bunch of cute dresses that hopefully could be pretty wearable. They have some nice detailing on the bodice. They've got like a slightly longer than knee length A-line skirt, possible collar, possible button options. Could be pretty cute. I've also got what I think is the perfect fabric remnant for this pattern. It's a very vintage looking floral cotton print, and I think it'd be so cute in this dress. So roll up your crafty sleeves. Join me on the crafting adventure. Hope you enjoy a little cozy sewing time. Of course, I'll show you what I learned along the way and what this dress looks like when we're done. Hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. Let's dive in and let's get started. Well, let's take a look at that fabric. I've got a little piece of it right here. Oh my goodness, so cute. Are you seeing the vintage vibe? Looks super vintagey to me. Like, I don't believe it is vintage. Like, it feels like it doesn't feel that old to me. It's a lightweight cotton, but so cute. I was kind of getting like 30s, 40s, or maybe even 50s vibes off of this. Of course, it's got like kind of a red to pink sketchy petals, and then these cute sketchy mint green leaves on the flowers. Adorable. I only have about 3 yards and maybe like 6 inches of this. I got a remnant, but I've been saving it for something special, and of course we got to use it now, so that's what we're gonna do. Just as a extra, a bonus, I've also got a little piece of this guy. Isn't that cute? Also giving me some like very like 30s vibes, especially in this mint green. I only have about 1 yard of that though, and it's not like perfect, but it's pretty darn close. Like, could be, I thought it could be a cute accent. If we need it, we'll see. If we're gonna complicate our lives that much, I don't know, but I thought these were adorable together. So of course we have to make a vintagey dress with a vintagey fabric, right? So let's talk pattern. I've been saving this guy for months. I do love a good 1940s pattern for day wear. And when I found this one, I think I got her at ye old Joann's, R.I.P. When I found this one, I thought, ooh, that could be really doable. I mean, dressy dresses are fun, but I like the day wear ones the best because they're pretty wearable, hopefully. There's what we're looking at for our line art. I think I'm going to be doing this guy. That's the plan. I have done a mock-up. I have been practicing this guy. So far, I found that the bodice fits me pretty well. I'm kind of narrow shoulder, but busty, and it's hard to get tops that fit me, but this one looks like it's going to fit. The top is kind of blousy, but the skirt is kind of narrow, like more narrow than I've seen on other 1940s dresses that I've made. So we have some adjustments to make. Let's take a look at the pattern and dive in. Okay, a few adjustments that I am planning to make. I am planning to raise the neckline, because that is a much deeper scoop than I need in my life. And I need to widen the skirt and gather the skirt a little bit so that it's not such a straight skirt. I'm curvy and I like Taco Tuesday. So let's make this thing a little fuller so it's not quite so tight. Those are a couple of things that I've noticed so far. Also, these kind of all-in-one sleeves are kind of cool. You're not actually making sleeves. It's just part of the bodice. I just realized that the armhole opening is a little too big for me, so I've kind of raised the underarm just a little bit. I like the length. Other than that, yeah. Okay. Let's dive in. Cutting out fabric. It's gonna take a while. Oh, and we need interfacing. Okay. That's a sew-in interfacing. I had to buy that specially because I did not have that. Let's see. Okay, so we got some sewing interfacing going in. Of course, as with any self-respecting 40s pattern, we're gonna need darts and we're gonna need tucks and all sorts of fun things. Got these cute like shoulder tucks. That's kind of fun. And then you end up just rolling a cuff on that all-in-one sleeve, and that's good to go. I think I am gonna go with the collar option. Have I figured out how this like neck facing works? No. I keep staring at that. I think I'm gonna have to just try it and figure it out. The skirt. Got some darts. Of course we need darts. Sewing the top to the skirt. You could add shoulder pads. I'm kind of allergic to shoulder pads. I don't know. Kid in the 80s. Shoulder pads don't work for me, but I appreciate them. And then we got to sew a million buttonholes and buttons. Yeah, that's going to take a little while. I could avoid doing all of those buttonholes if I wanted to do the other option, which just has buttons going here. The only problem is this dress has a little side opening, a little side placket, and they're finishing it in kind of an interesting way that I've seen on some other 1940s patterns. Instead of putting in a side zip, which does not sound like fun, they make a little strip of fabric and then they hide the raw edges of the side opening with that fabric. And then, yeah, it's a little fiddly. Then they put in some snaps and hooks and eyes. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, so they're taking a little piece of fabric and they're edging both sides of the side opening with that. Kind of got that. And then they have you sew in a whole bunch of snaps and hook and eye. Which I've done that. Would I rather do that than do like an invisible zipper? Potentially. But that takes a lot of time and it's kind of fiddly. So I'm doing a whole bunch of buttons instead. Hopefully I don't regret that choice. Another side note, there are also directions for making these hats. I mean, look at that. That's kind of cool because it's really hard to find these big kind of cartwheel style 40s hats. That's not what I'm tackling today, but that might need to be something we try. Let me know. What do you guys think? Do we make some hats? Could be fun. Okay, let's not get distracted We got a bunch of fabric to cut out. Well, iron, cut out, and sew this stuff. So let's get started. Wow, guys, we're just barely getting this to fit. And I had to take in the sleeve cuff. I reduced it by about 1/2 inch. Of course, I'm using the pieces of my mock-up as my pattern pieces, so that's why they are the way they are. Oh dear, top bodice piece, or the front bodice, it barely fits. So I definitely had to put it at an angle. Thankfully, this pattern is super busy, and I think that will be okay. I hope the fabric won't stretch too weirdly, but that's the only thing I could do. Look, by shrinking the sleeve cuff, like I barely get it in there. So, and of course I have raised the neckline a bit, so that took up a little more space, and I had to add a little bit of tape over there to patch my pattern piece job. So that's why it looks a little funny, but okay, so we got the bodice, we got the skirt, and I think we're gonna have to add another fabric for the rest. Phew. Well, after a whole bunch of head scratching and ironing, thankfully we have enough of our accent fabric, with the help of some remnant white sheet fabric for the lining pieces. We've got enough to complete the dress and even add in some add-ins. Let's take a look. One is traced on the fabric, and of course one is my paper copy of our collar. But we have our 2 collar pieces. And then over here is my intended skirt panel insert to widen that skirt a bit. Take a look at that in a little more in a second. I do have enough to potentially make, right here and up here, some patch pockets for the front. I added pockets like that on another dress where I was putting 2 remnants together, and the pockets really made it cute and look intentional. So I'm thinking maybe we need that. Also, I've got a couple inches along the edge of the fabric there, along the selvage. Maybe I'd have enough for a belt. It could happen. Could be a thing. Vintage ladies like their accessories. And then I have, of course, traced out on some scrap paper. I've got my neck interfacing or lining pieces there that I will just be cutting out of this white fabric, because hopefully those won't show, and the dress fabric is white, so hopefully that will be nice. Let's talk a little bit about that skirt insert. So to figure out what shape I need that skirt panel to be, I was looking at the sides of the skirt pieces and see how they have the different lines there for different sizes of the garment. Well, I kind of just, traced that kind of flared but still slightly tapered line onto some big white paper. You can see there's one taped on one side. And then I kind of folded that paper in half just to make sure that I could get it symmetrical, kind of cut it out. Hopefully, I will be following the taper of the skirt. I also have the little V's on there to show me where to insert this thing. Oh, I did curve the top just a little bit, hopefully following the curve of the waistline. I'm not entirely sure about the curve that I will need on the skirt. Honestly, I am kind of just leaving about 1.5 inches of extra down there so that once I sew it to the other skirt panels, I can just try to kind of follow their curve and work this in. I don't know. I think it's gonna work. The panel is about 8 inches at the top and about 9.5 down near the skirt hem. So hopefully it's going to be enough to add some room and an accent, but not so much room that it completely messes up the look of the skirt. Anyway, I still am cutting out pattern pieces, so I'm going to get to that, and then I'm really looking forward to finally being able to sew. Oh, and you thought we were done? No, we still need the interfacing. Yay! Whoa, wowie. Yeah, definitely modifying the pattern. I kind of tried to figure out that fabric skirt insert thing there. Took a while. And then, of course, we're adding some patch pockets. Those are a couple very hard to see interfacing neck pieces over there. And then, kind of hard to see, but yeah, had to put in all the dart lines and all the markings, and it's really hard to see on this fabric, but there is a lot of markings, especially on the bodice. I mean, we've got darts, we've got shoulder tucks, we got the fold over for the button placket. Yeah. Well, and of course we had to have markings on the skirt. So, you know what? I think it's there. I think I'm gonna make a snack, get some coffee, and let's take a look at that pattern and then see what we gotta do first. Okay, guys. Well, it's exciting to be contemplating actually sewing. So, what do we gotta do? Okay, we've got to apply some interfacing. We just stitch that into front of our bodice, front of the skirt. Looks like we got our collar pieces and our neck facings. Okay, got to reinforce a little spot there on the bodice. Front and back. Oh, and we got to sew some darts. Once we sew the shoulder seams together, then we can do those little shoulder tucks. Those are kind of cute. You're just folding over the fabric and then stitching it down. Very cute. I'm not going to be doing rickrack, so yay for skipping that. And looks like we can sew under the arms, and then we gotta fiddle-faddle with the arms. Okay, I'm going to start with this, and this, and then this. And we'll see how far I get. Yay! Just a few notes, guys, on a few of my modifications. Of course, we are looking at the multi-size version of the pattern, so sorry, it's a little hard to see. One thing that I wanted to do was raise the scoop neckline a bit, and normally a 14 would come down there. You can tell it's kind of a deep neck, and I definitely want to bring that up a little bit for me. So what I'm doing is I'm just tracing the highest neckline and using that. Hopefully it's not going to make things too weird. It's going to change the shape of the neckline a bit, but that's what I did. Also, the underarm for my size is right about here. I ended up raising the base of the underarm by about 3/4 of an inch to shrink it in a little bit because it was just really big and kind of gapy gappy under my arm. So a couple of changes that I made there on the bodice. Well, last night off camera, I sewed the neck facing pieces together. These are the ones I did out of the kind of extra sheet fabric. And then, of course, they've got the sewing interfacing on that side. And then we got our collar. Pin 2 of those pieces. Still need to stitch around the outer edge of that. Let's take a look. Okay, need to do that. Need to turn the collar right sides out. Then we can pin that to the top of the dress. Very exciting. There's our interfacing. Now, how does this work with the neck facing getting pinned on there? I don't know quite yet. I gotta try it, figure it out. I have a feeling the collar is going to get sandwiched in between the dress and the facing. I think that's probably what's going to happen. And then the facing is going to get turned to the inside and stitched down. Let's see. And then we're on to the skirt. Okay. Let's start here. Well, update time, guys. I just spent, I don't know, the last hour trying to figure out this neck facing situation and trying different things. But I think I got it. Let me show you. Okay, here's the problem. So we've got neck facing piece, but then we've also got the front facing piece. And they wanted us to sew the ends of front neck facing to bodice, try again. Stitch ends of front neck facing to bodice front self facing, ending at small circle. Okay, so I see the small circle. And then you're supposed to turn in some seam allowance and stuff. Okay, that's beautiful. Once you have that, though, you're turning out the front, turn out self facings to outside along the fold line. So I think that's there. And then pin the facing to the neck edge, which I think you're doing the front facing gets pinned to the neck edge. The neck facing gets pinned to the neck edge. Okay, I kind of get that, but this was the problem. Which end? Like, what is the end that we're talking about of the neck facing? Let me show you what I think I got. Okay, so here's the picture. We're trying to recreate the dotty line. Dotty texture is showing us that we've got our interfacing kind of sticking out. Front facing, neck facing. So I think what we need to do, so there's the front facing. I think we're sewing this end, this to this. Not the top part, which I consider this the end, but I think it's this part. Let me set up the tripod and kind of show you what I'm actually doing. Okay, so this isn't attached yet, theoretically, but this is here. Hopefully I'm doing this right. Now trying to recreate this. It gets this, so I need the interfacing side facing up. I need this to fold like this, because it's eventually going to fold like that. And I need this to line up with basically this. There is a dot here, there is a dot here. My dots don't entirely line up, but I'm pretty close. So let me just pin this as if I was sewing it. I'm going to put pins in like stitches. This isn't exact, but this is kind of like where my stitch lines would be, theoretically. Okay, and then we'd stop like right about there. Okay. So we basically got that. And basically, whoa, can't see. Basically got that. Okay. But then, in the next step, you've got to turn the self-facing to the outside. I think by self-facing, they mean this. Turn it to the outside along fold lines. We have a couple of fold lines on the front of the bodice. One is like here. I got it marked on this side, thankfully. So let's just pin that just so it stays for a second. Ooh, fold line. We have a fold line. And I can feel the collar. The collar stops like right there. So this is like going to be the front edge, front outer edge of the bodice. Okay. So say we've turn out the facing along the fold line. Then you're supposed to pin facing to neck edge. So I think you're taking this facing and this facing going to the neck edge. So this guy lines up pretty nicely. Again, I'm going to put in pins the wrong way to act like we're stitching. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. And then theoretically, I think I continue this on. Of course, one of the other steps is that I'm supposed to turn in, I think, the edge and stitch it down on both facings to finish that. So that's coming. I may end up just doing a zigzag stitch to be lazy, because I don't think you really need a firm finish on that. Well, maybe on the neck facing. This is just going to be, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so then we would theoretically go all the way around and get that. I tested it over here. Can you actually see that? I tested it on this side. Okay, so I did stitch this together. What if we then put in those pins like we just did? Yeah, this has been stitched, so that's useful. Okay, throw in a few pins. It actually looks like this will fit. I've tried it. It's pretty close. Are you going to fit? Doo-dah, doo-dah. All right. So say this gets folded over, this gets stitched. If we turn everything right sides out, or sorry, right sides to where they would go. Okay, so the neck facing goes in, right? Hope so. And then this is like on the fold line, it would become like the front. Yeah, there's our fold line. There are my button marks. Yay. Okay. So that the collar goes out, the facings go in, and this neck facing would get turned inside the garment. Okay. It makes sense to me, so I'm gonna go sew it. Hope that works. I'm sorry if that was extra confusing, but we need like 3 to 4 more pictures and like another step in here, and like it's really hard to see where the stitching is, and this needs like 5 more things right here on the pattern. But I think I got it. I'm gonna go stitch it. Here I go. Phew. Well, we did it, guys. I have given the collar and the facings a little bit of a press. I need to do it more. I like how it's all working, like all the raw edges are hidden and everything's nice and neat. The collar's kind of having a hard time laying where it needs to be, but definitely need to press that a little more, get more steam on there. I'm most not loving the interfacing. It's like, it's kind of crunchy. I mean, it's not terrible. I've tried it on. To be fair, it's okay, but it's definitely a little poofy. I have tacked it at the sleeves and I have been trying to iron it. I did do the understitching like I was supposed to do, but I'm kind of wondering why they asked me to put the sewing interfacing into this. Like, why does this need to be lined? Probably gonna end up making the collar lay better. I'm sure there's a cool reason for it. Let me know if you know that reason, but I don't think I'm gonna line that next time because I don't want this to have so much body to it. I may end up having to tack it down a little bit more just around the neck, especially in the back. There's almost like too much fabric, almost, in this facing. I don't know. That's a little weird to me. But I think it's okay. Thankfully, I've tried it on. I think it's okay. So that means we get to take a wee break from the top and we got to talk about the skirt. So let's do that. Okay, here are the skirt panels. I already got the darts sewn on in the interfacing. You can see there on the skirt front. But I do need to add these side panels. And I need to sew everything together. And then I can sew the skirt to the dress. Let's take a look at that. All right, guys, let's look at that skirt. Ooh, I do need to do this. I haven't done that yet. And fold in the facing and iron it. Okay, need to do that. Got the darts though. I will need to be sewing all the panels together. I'm gonna have 5 panels instead of 3 because I gotta insert those extra panels on one on each side. Okay, cool. I will also need to be adding some gathering stitches at the top of the skirt because my skirt's gonna be too big for the bodice and I want to be able to gather that in. Of course, there are also like gathering lines on the bodice, and so I can use those to kind of help make the skirt fit to the top. I might make the top a little looser in the waist since I have that ability. Might not be a bad idea. And then of course we'll be sewing those together, top and skirt together. Oh, hey, once we do that though, we're really close. They want us to turn that self-facing in, tack down at the seam. I'm not doing your shoulder pads. No, thank you. They're doing a cool hem. I'm probably just going to do a rolled hem. And then we turn that facing down over the hem and slip stitch it. Oh, yeah. Then we've got to make 12 million buttonholes. Okay, let's not think about that. Let's do the skirt. Wow, I almost forgot, guys, while making the skirt, I also need to make the little patch pockets for the front. You can tell I'm just basically making a little pillowcase, leaving a little gap in my stitching. I just trimmed the corners of these guys. Then I'm going to turn it right sides out, press it. Where's the hole? It's right about there. I definitely pressed that closed. Then I'm going to pin this to my skirt, and then I'll stitch like really close to the edge of the pocket to sew it on to the dress, and then that'll close up the little opening. When I was looking at my skirt, when I was trying things on, I kind of experimented with placements and made some markings on my skirt. So I think I have a pretty good idea of where these guys are going to go. Let's check. I'm just checking on my board here to see how big this is. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a little bit more by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little bit more. Okay, so just about 6 by 5 for these little pockets. I definitely could make them bigger if I had more fabric. But I think these are going to be okay. Guys, I did get the skirt gathered, but you could tell I was having some issues because the top is normally supposed to has 4 sections of gathers, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and those little sections get gathered a little bit to meet the skirt. But I've made the skirt gathered. So then it was hard to estimate, well, how much do you gather the top to match the skirt? And I didn't do it right because it's too tight. So let's take a look at our pattern pieces, see what I should have figured out before I did that. I'm looking at, let's see, what are we looking at? We're looking at the front. Front skirt's on the top. Front top is down here. You see our circles, circle, circle, and then the corresponding ones over there on the skirt. Those are what markings are supposed to match on when the skirt and the top are sewn together. This part gets gathered, and then that would meet their dots on the skirt. If you put in this little dart, the skirt dots are about 3.5 inches apart. This one, these guys are like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're about 5 inches apart. So 5 inches needs to go down to about 3.5. Now I know. I think I gathered them way more than that. Okay, here is the skirt back and the bodice back. We kind of have some similar dots and some similar issues. These guys and these guys need to match up. If this dart is put into place, the skirt dots will be about 3 inches apart. And let's see, our top darts, you can kind of tell from my cutting board, 1, 2, 3, 4, a little bit more. 4 inches goes down just a little bit. So now I know, which is really good to know. And thankfully I did based in that skirt, so I can fix it now. So I'm gonna take out the stitching, disconnect the pieces, and then I will do a little gathering on the top and measure it so that it's the right width, and then I'll make that match the skirt. Wish me luck, guys. I will see you on the other side. Wow, guys, it is yet again a new day. And finally, we have most of a dress. Yay! Oh my goodness. Yeah, that took some time. All right, my bad with not figuring out how much I needed to gather the bodice before attaching it to a newly gathered skirt. Yeah. So after I tried on the first one, I then figured out how much I needed to make the front gathers, and the back gathers. And then I sewed the skirt back to the bodice. Well, then I tried that on and it was still kind of tight. So then I undid the front gathering and I added, I think, about 4 inches between the gather dots on the front instead of 3.5. And now it's a little more comfortable, so I'll be ready for Taco Tuesday. Yeah, I should have thought that one through. But I am really liking how the contrasting fabric is working. I think the added panels are working nicely with the skirt. They're not throwing anything off too badly. I will say now the proportions of the dress are a little less chic, I guess, because the top is blousey and the skirt is blousey. So definitely giving me like house dress vibes. If you're going for a sleeker look, maybe go for the sleeker skirt, but I'm liking this a lot. We of course need to add on about 1 million buttons and buttonholes, which I need to order those buttons because we need 14 of them. I also have some little pieces. I also have some little strips of fabric that I think I'm going to cut into some strips and maybe make like a really thin belt, because I have 2 strips of green and then I have 2 strips, oop, that's a little extra, 2 strips of the floral. So belt on that eventually. I am working though on the hem. I was just gonna do like a basic rolled hem, but I am doing something a tiny bit tricky. Let me show you what I'm thinking. Okay, well, looking at our hem, I did something a little bit tricky. You know, the button placket's supposed to be folded in. Well, I did this thing that I was borrowing from another dress pattern where I turned this, instead of being inward, I turned it outward and stitched. I stitched about 1.25 inches from the bottom of the fabric because that's about what I want to use for my hem. Now that I've stitched that, I'll be able to eventually turn that right side out. Gonna make like a nice little corner, and then I can use the fabric, kind of roll the rest of my hem to kind of match that. I may end up trimming some of that down a little bit. So roll my hem a little bit, pin it, and then I could just, you know, stitch all the way down. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. Then I gotta wait for those buttons to arrive, and then hopefully we will have ourselves a dress. So thank you guys for sticking with me through the process for the dress. Almost there. Well, you guys, at long last, we've got our 1940s dress. And I'm really liking this one. I think it was worth it. Whew. It was worth it to test out the pattern when I did my mock-up and realize the modifications I wanted to make. It was worth it taking the extra time to add like some of the extra detailing, like the patch pockets. I do like the gathered skirt. It's really comfy to wear. I am really enjoying these little flower buttons that I found. Oh my gosh, too cute. I think this is going to be a new base pattern for me for 1940s things. And I'm excited to have that because I haven't tried a new 40s pattern that I really liked for a while. And now that I kind of know what I want to do, I can make it in other colors and stuff. So that sounds pretty fantastic. There are a couple of things that I will change when I repeat this pattern again. So let's take a look at those and check. I think I used an interfacing that was a little bit too, wasn't soft enough in that neck interfacing. And so in future, I'm going to keep researching sewing interfacing and trying to find the lightest, softest stuff I've got, because that neck facing is a little annoying, and I think the interfacing that I used is making it a little more annoying. So I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of an odd shape anyway. Like there's too much of it. It's like ripply and doesn't lay as straight as I would like. So yeah, that's a little weird. Also, when I took all that time to sew the skirt to the bodice and I made a bunch of mistakes and I made some adjustments, I ended up making, let's see, some of the gathered sections of the bodice. I ended up making them a little less gathered than they were supposed to be because I thought the waist was going to be too tight. And hey, we love Taco Tuesday around here, so if we're making a dress, we don't want the waist to be tight. But now that I'm wearing it, I realize it looks a little too big. It's actually a little bigger than it needs to be. So in future, I would try to bring that waist in a little bit, and I think that would still be comfortable, but look a little cuter. With the skirt being gathered, let's switch to the other angle here. With the skirt being gathered, the dress definitely looks, to me, a little more 1950s now. You know, just the skirt being full, and also, the length is a little long. I could have hemmed it up maybe like an inch and a half shorter, and I think that might have looked a little bit more 40s. As is, that kind of gathered-y skirt with the kind of puffy bodice. Like it looks a little puffy with all the gathers and the darts and the tucks on the shoulder. The whole dress looks a little bit, let's see, it's not a slim fit dress. And I think the original pattern was a little bit more tailored looking, especially in the skirt. The skirt was kind of almost had a straight skirt, almost pencil skirt vibe. As it is now, it's not. It's definitely a looser, more flowing dress. So just an FYI on that if you're trying this pattern. I like a looser flowing dress. So I'm happier with it, but it's just something I noted with those pattern modifications. Of course, he kind of threw off the balance of the original pattern, which had a fuller top and then a more fitted skirt. Now the whole thing is a little bit poofier, and yeah, it does to me look a little more late 40s now, but that's okay. That's okay. And here is the back of the dress. A little plainer, but still cute. You guys saw that I was making a belt out of some of the remnants of the fabric. I'm afraid I haven't finished that belt yet, but if I do use it in future, it would be cute to have like a little tie belt and like a bow hanging down here in the back. That would definitely make it a little bit more interesting, and it could also help bring in that waistline a little bit that I made maybe a little bit too big. So I'm going to keep that in mind for future outfits, but I won't have time to put it in the outfit today, unfortunately. And of course, you guys, if you get behind sewing your own clothes, doing a little bit of time traveling, taking all the time that it takes to make what you want, give this video a big thumbs up, will ya? And consider subscribing for more fun stuff for partners in craft. We are always up to something around here. Lots of sewing, lots of thrift flipping, crafting. We love it all. So hope you join us for more adventures. Thank you, of course, to our subscribers for all the likes, shares, and comments. We really appreciate you guys. Okay, it is time to do my hair, get ready for a little time travel, and put an outfit together. Here we go.